Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the TJR Auto channel. My name is Tyler, and in today's video, we're going to be shifting our focus away from the GTO for a little bit. Um, yeah, that's a different day's story. But anywhoosins, what we're going to be taking care of today, hopefully, is something on my favorite vehicle, probably one of my most damned vehicles, Ollie, the HD. So for those who don't know, this is my 2006 GMC Sierra 2500 HD. Ollie. The other day, and by the other day I mean like probably almost a month ago, I hopped in it, went to leave my house, and the brake pedal went right to the floor, and we blew a rear brake line. So I've never done brakes, or brake lines I should say, so we're going to try doing a brake line today and seeing how much I can butcher that. So being under the good old truck here, we can see there's some brake lines that run along the axle, and then there's ones that run inside of this frame rail on the driver's side. Those were replaced, those lines. Most of the lines were actually replaced on this truck, except the rear ones, and go figure that's what we blew. So here, on the coming off the side of the diff, we can see this like little junction block here. This line breaks off, goes to the driver's side rear wheel. As far as I know, that one is fine. But this top one here, this guy right here, it's pretty rusty, and this is the one that blew through and was just shooting brake fluid directly at my gas tank. Now this line goes from this junction block here over the diff, down the axle, and actually goes yonder to there, that fitting right there, that line. So first things first, we need to get this line out of here. So hopefully it plays nice and will break free. Once we get the line totally off the truck, then we can essentially replicate the line and try our luck at doing a double flare on both sides and hoping that I bought the right fittings. And if not, maybe we can get away with reusing these. Alrighty folks, well the line is out. Actually came out a lot easier than I was expecting. So we just had one mounting bolt here that goes to the rear axle, and then we had just one fitting on each side, and they both broke off instantly as soon as I put a wrench on them. So that's good. I also did spray these with PB Blast like once 2 days ago, I want to say. I didn't even really soak them, just kind of sprayed a little bit on them. So they came out really easy, which is good. So I think I got this roll of like copper nickel brake line for like 28 bucks off Amazon, and it also came with these fittings. Came with a bunch of different sizes. Now these, which it came with a quantity of 10, so I'm assuming this is like a very common size. I went and checked. These are the ones we will be using now for the truck. So all we basically need to do is roll this tube out, roll out some line, essentially try to make it pretty damn close to this, throw some fittings on it, use the flaring tool, double flare it. You apparently want double flares for brake lines. I've never done brake lines, so this is new to me, but from the two YouTube shorts I watched, it should be pretty simple. But we'll get the line rolled out, roughly the size. Maybe I'll leave it a little bit longer, and then we'll throw these on so we don't forget about them. And then at least flare one side, fit it to the truck, see if we want to trim anything, and then from there we can make our other flare, get it mounted back onto the axle, and we should be ready to rip. I did get my first flare done off camera. It was interesting, but we got it done eventually. And then I ended up fitting this flare to the distribution block under the truck and kind of bent the line into shape into the hangers and whatnot, and then got it cut for roughly where it needs to go into the driver's side brake. So what I did was, like I just said, I cut it back. Now I threw the fitting on. I deburred the line itself, and now we're ready to try to flare it. So now we take our die, which this is a special die just for doing double flares. A single flare, I suppose, does not have the second lip on it, and this die end that goes into the tube actually looks a little different. But now, since it's deburred, cleaned up, we can get this guy in here, spin it around, no problem. So what we're going to be doing is I'm actually just going to leave that in there, and we're going to grab our nifty little flaring block, I believe they call it. So we'll throw it into the 3/16 because this is 3/16 line. You want to have enough pipe sticking out here that it actually matches the bottom step of the adapter. So you can see we're a little out right there. So we'll just try to get a little bit, boom. Just like that. You want just the same amount as this bottom step sticking out. We'll take this guy, throw it on here. All right, so now have this into place. Running in by hand as much as I can. And then we'll take our little bar and we'll start cranking her in there. So you basically just want to do this until the black dye is then kissing the flaring block, just like so. Back out. Okay, that's about the 18th time I've done that today. So now what we're left with is this little bubbled looking ordeal, right? So then what we end up doing is leaving the dye off at this time, putting this back in, and then running it in like you would for a normal flare. Yep, yep, yep. And now, people, we have created a double flare. So let's loosen up the block. Boom. That's how we look. Fits up to it. Looks nice. Looks pretty good. Well, folks, I got the new line in yesterday. I definitely need to finalize the mounting spots. We can see we got it in here at the distribution block. Got it in here at the passenger rear wheel. I just have it zip tied currently to that line and have it gently popped in place into these clips, which isn't really doing much. Alrighty, folks. Well, it has been a little while since I've picked up the videoing machine, but we have some very big updates actually for this truck that we need to go over. So I believe the last thing that you guys just saw was about the rear brake line. So about a day after I filmed that clip, I got the brakes bled and test drove it. Everything was fine. I was like, all right, cool. The truck's back in commission. Took it out a day after I did the test driving, and the truck got death wobble. Don't know, you know, it never did it this bad before. I always had a little bit of shake to the wheel, but it was bad. It was shaking really, really hard. So I parked the truck for a couple more days, and then when I had some time, came back out, put it up in the air, and I'll put up on the screen what I found when I looked underneath the truck. First things first, it looked like the pitman arm was pretty worn out, had some good play to it. Same with the idler arm, that also had some play to it. And I think the biggest thing was the driver's side front tire had a pretty big like balloon to it. And when I was under there as well, I also noticed that the transmission was soaking wet. So I figured that the pan gasket needed to be changed. This thing always didn't necessarily eat ATF, but it was, you know, I'd have to fill it every so often because it would go a little low because it was leaking like a motherfucker. So after I spent the time under the truck, I ordered an idler arm, I ordered a pitman arm, I also ordered an idler arm bracket, and I also bought stuff to do basically like a transmission service, you know, pan gasket, filter, and fluid. So did those things to the transmission, that sealed it up, everything looks good there. I did the idler arm and the idler arm bracket. Truck felt a little bit smoother, but it still was kind of rough. So I ended up scoring a set of front tires that matched the rear tires. Once I got those swapped on, the truck actually drives phenomenal. It drives super smooth. It's the best it has ever felt. So I didn't even change the pitman arm out yet, but I already have it. I might as well do it at some point in the near future. So after getting the truck, you know, like the chassis itself to feel smooth going down the road, the next thing on my list for this thing was to tackle the engine. For those who don't know, when I bought this truck, the thing is just dog shit slow. I did a basic tune-up, you know, plugs, wires, clean the MAF, clean the throttle body, new gaskets for the throttle body, and it felt anytime I've done something to the motor, it's always felt a little bit better, but it still feels like shit. Essentially, and I'll end up putting clips in to show you guys, but from like, let's say I'm at a dead stop and I just nail the gas pedal. The truck should get up and go to some degree. This thing would sit there, stutter, stumble, and it would not accelerate. It was actually kind of dangerous. You know, if you're trying to merge somewhere or you're trying to get onto a highway or something, just trying to get up to 50 miles per hour, you couldn't go wide open throttle. You'd have to literally go like half throttle, and then at like 4,000 RPM, you'd be able to go wide open. And you definitely had full power between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM, somewhere around that range. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit more. So the truck had a bunch of different codes. Usually had like random misfire code, lean codes, what else was there? Knock sensor code started kind of recently, And very recently, an O2 sensor code popped up for one of the primary O2s. So I ordered some new O2s, I threw them in, made the truck feel a little bit better, but it still wasn't great. I then said, I wonder if the trans tune that the truck has is doing anything funky to it. So I reverted the truck back to a stock tune file. Mind you, I did not put the trans tune on it, somebody else did that. And yes, it was kind of funny that this thing would chirp the tires between first and second gear, but not necessary in something like this. So remove the trans tune, put it back to a stock tune file in the truck, and even that made it a little bit smoother to drive. I said, okay, we're moving in the right direction. Did some diagnosing with the knock sensor situation. The knock sensor actually had no reading to it whatsoever. You should get, I believe, between 90,000 and 100,000 ohms, like resistance to it, to ground. I had nothing. I had resistance on number one knock sensor, but number two, I had nothing. So my bet is it did what every other truck from this era did, and essentially some water and some nasty shit is able to go past the seals on the valley pan or the valley tray, work its way down to the knock sensor where it's screwed into the block, and it rusts out. Then you lose your ground, you lose your connection, and then the knock sensor basically reads low voltage. So I bypassed it, which we're not going to talk about. So now we've eliminated the knock sensor code, and we've eliminated the O2 sensor code, but the truck would still throw lean codes and random misfire codes. I said, you know what? For whoosies, since the GTO is broken as it always is, let's steal the coil packs off of it. It's the same motor, it's a 6-liter LQ4. So I said, let's steal the coil packs off of it, swap it on the truck, and see if that helps. Swapping over the coil packs solved the final issues with this thing. It has not thrown a check engine light in a couple days, which is beautiful, since I've swapped the coil packs over. And the truck is 100% on all 8 cylinders. I don't know how, it was doing what it was doing before. I somehow, when I was doing things, I was making it better, but it was never the best. Now this truck feels exactly how I would expect it to, for its age, for being a stock 6-liter. It should have some nuts. And now I would say it definitely does. The drivability, even just putting around town, is noticeably insanely different. Like just putting around, it actually is responsive and it drives how it should drive. Before, you had to drive this thing a certain way just to kind of get around, if that makes any sense. So I'll put some clips in of how it used to drive versus how it drives now. Again, I personally think that it is like good to go engine wise. I think we're definitely up to all the horse puppies that she can make. For as tired as this thing might be, it still runs pretty damn good. Folks, let's see what the old 6.0's got. This is by far the best this truck has ever felt. It definitely feels like we're hitting on all 8. It feels like we've got all the power all the way through the RPM band now. It doesn't feel like VTEC's kicking in anymore at 4,000 to 6,000. It feels smooth all the way through. So I think swapping the coil packs on was definitely a good call. Now I'm just gonna have to get some coil packs for the GTO, I suppose. But man, oh man, this is nice. You might be able to tell in some of the videos, this thing kind of sounds like a tractor. Both manifold gaskets, exhaust manifold gaskets, where they butt up to the head, both of them are blown out on the primary, like the first cylinder in line. So it definitely needs some manifold gaskets. I figure I'll also do the flange connection gaskets, like the donuts or whatever the hell they are, like the crushed donuts there as well. But half the bolts are already broken off, so I'm sure the rest of them are going to break. So that's going to be garage sort of deal. You know, when the GTO's out of the garage, I figure I'll take care of that. But it definitely is one of the next things on my list to try to get this thing dialed in. But overall, now the truck feels smooth going down the road. It accelerates and drives smoothly. It's as powerful as it should be. And I think we woke this thing back up. I think we saved this truck because I was getting this close to just listing it for sale because I was getting really sick of how shitty it was. So I think we have gotten Holly to a pretty damn good spot. I've been daily driving it now for multiple days, and it is just, it's great. You know, I'm actually kind of falling in love with this thing. I know it's nothing crazy. It's just a bone stock, muffler deleted, GMT 800, you know, little HD. But She-Buggy's pretty good. I think it's fun to drive. I like driving it. I think it's got a pretty decent street appearance for being almost 20 years old. And it sounds kind of cool. So you really can't beat that. I apologize for the lack of content within this video. I kind of got to a weird point with the vehicles where really only the Marquis was like safe to drive. You know, this thing was a death trap. The GTO just never works because it's the GTO. So I kind of just wanted to put the camera down for a while and crank this thing out. And I'm happy I did because I was able to fix a lot more things than I expected to. And now we have this as a solid driver, as well as the Marquis, which is behind the camera. That's what I'm pointing at. But the GTO, I don't know. It's whatever. It's the GTO. So expect to see some GTO content soon. But again, I'm just very happy that we got the truck to where it is now. It is just good. I'm very, very happy with that. I can't stress that enough. When you own 3 vehicles and only one of them ends up being drivable, it's kind of like twisting a knife in a wound, you know? So now that 2 out of 3 vehicles are drivable, I'm actually a happy camper. I'm content with that because you got to have a backup for the backup for the backup. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I'm going to be wrapping up the video here. If you guys enjoyed and you want to see some more content, please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Like I said, there should be some GTO content coming very, very soon. If anything breaks on this shit box, there will be content on that. Same with the Marquis. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, please make sure to hit the like button and also drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys genuinely think about this truck. There's still a million things I would like to do to it, just cleanup wise, but it's not necessary, you know? At this point, I just wanted it to be like functional. Now that it's functional, we might be able to do some fun stuff here and there to actually make it kind of nicer. But again, it's more so just to be a daily driver, a parts hauler, parts go-getter, whatever, you know. So I don't really know how nice we should make it. Probably not much nicer than it is. It's fine. It's good. It's fun. That's what I got to keep telling myself, is it's fun. But as always, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. I truly do appreciate it. And hopefully I catch you guys in the next one.